America, the life and death of Robin Williams.
Good morning. The death of the Oscar winner has fans reflecting on the enormous range of his talents.
As America woke up, news of Robin Williams' death was beginning to sink in. Most will remember him as a funny, energetic comedy great, but he had well-documented troubles too. Williams became addicted to alcohol and cocaine just as he found fame in the 1970s. It wasn't until the early 80s, when his friend, the comedy actor John Belushi, died of an overdose, that he realised he needed to stop, something he talked about in interviews.
Here's a guy who was probably one of the toughest, strongest people you could ever meet, and he's taken out, you know, and it basically it cleaned up a whole generation of people.
Williams stayed sober for the next 20 years, during which time he did some of his best-known work.
Instant eye lift. Wow.
Scott Capiro, his co-star in Mrs. Doubtfire, said you'd never know he was often still wrestling with his demons.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
He was so giggly. You know, I did a bunch of things with his head and his face for the makeup, and I would tug on those wires, and he would just giggle like I was tickling him. It was great. I have very fond memories of that experience.
In 2003, Williams relapsed. Whilst filming Insomnia, he tried some whiskey. Within a week, he was addicted again. He blamed anxiety. In an interview, he said, "You're standing at a precipice and you look down and there's a voice, a quiet voice, and it goes jump. And it's the same voice that goes just one. And for someone that has no tolerance for it, that's just not a possibility." It took 3 years and the help of his family to get him into rehab and sober again. Those who've met him say, if nothing else, he's been very open about his depression.
Robin had always been very open about his issues with drink, with drugs and with depression as well. He's talked about it a lot. So when you spoke to him, you knew he was a man. It was never like there was an elephant in the room that you didn't mention. He was quite happy to bring it up. A lot of his best-known quotes from interviews are talking about the conditions and the addictions that he suffered from.
Your show Flip will be back to work in District 9.
In recent years, life seemed to be more positive. He'd been working on the TV programme The Crazy Ones. He'd married for a third time and had other work lined up, including a possible sequel to Mrs. Doubtfire. But just last month, he checked into rehab again. His depression had returned, and this time it seems he just couldn't overcome it. Louise Beale, 5 News.